Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, where we are going through every Babylon 5 in chronological order. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson. Joining me, as always, is Karen.
Hello.
And Lou.
Good early morning, all, on this day of our change.
Yes, we are recording on
ever.
Sunday, and we've already discussed how we wish daylight savings time would go away.
This is standard time now? Is that what we're at, or is it the other?
I think I can never keep it track.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, so that's why I've started when I'm sending a message to someone about recording a podcast, I do Central Time. I don't do CST or CDT because I don't want to remember. So I
do
Central
ET
time
as well. ET.
Yeah.
ET, phone home.
Phone home. Yeah.
All right. We are discussing where's my notes? There we are.
The 12th episode of season 4.
The 12th episode, season 4. Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
And it's a very Garibaldi-centric episode, but that does not mean necessarily that Lou is happy with it. So I'm not even gonna pretend to build the tension. I'm just going straight to Lou.
Good plan.
Yay or nay?
2 thumbs up.
Okay.
Ooh.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
How about you, Karen?
I give it 2 thumbs up as well. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I was really happy to see this one again. I did watch it more than once, unlike last week, and enjoyed both viewings very much. We'll get to a lot of stuff, but I think it is because this was mainly one storyline that had other people interact. We had a couple of small off storylines, so we'll get rid of those first. Susan is trying to get power to the station so that she can broadcast, similar that we talked last time. Like, where is she planning to broadcast? So they're going to broadcast at all the ships at sea, and then anyone who can have that power. And I thought it was a very funny scene where she's worried about where to get it. And Steven just casually mentions, we have a whole planet down here that we always seem to forget and we never want to use.
Which they do.
Except when it's convenient for the plot line. And then, of course, I love how Susan, of course, only a fool would not think of that. Really made fun of herself.
I have an idea.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you would have thought of it, and so she goes down and we have a little scene with Zathras. Anyway, Karen, tell me about our Susan and what did you think?
You're going to go to Lou first, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to talk Garibaldi, but I just want to get the other 2 little storylines out of the way,
sure.
and then we'll do Garibaldi.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, her first broadcast where she says, we are here, we're telling the truth. Just any thoughts on this kind of, I think, I wouldn't even call it a B storyline. I would call it a C storyline.
I mean, it had a lot of information, but they didn't really focus on that. So I think they're dropping some hints there on what type of things she's going to report on. And I'm putting that in air quotes because it's not really reporting. She's just like giving information, I'm assuming. I appreciated that. I see that this is the last episode that includes any Zathras type character in it. And I liked on IMDb, it said Zathras 2 instead of actually like writing it with the emphasis on the wrong.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, when he said them, I didn't notice any difference. Okay.
And I think that is part of the shtick.
Yeah.
Is that in
to
his
him,
mind it sounds different, but to them it's just the same. Yeah.
And we have been mentioning, Lou and I, that why don't they use that planet for something? And they made a joke at themselves over that.
Yeah.
That, hey, maybe we should have used this in the war.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. And of course, there's a reference to Drock. Is that his name, Drock?
Yeah.
Drawl?
Yeah, Drawl, yeah.
Okay. There was a reference to him, and we have also mentioned that you have told us that the actor couldn't come back. We got Zathras. And so now we don't know if they go to the planet again, who's going to be their contact. Because we know it's not Dral and we know it's not Zathras.
Oh, well, I didn't know that about Zathras, so that's
a it just says in the wiki for it that's his last appearance.
And I wonder if that is a foretelling that we shall never again mention the planet, or if we do, there'll be a hand wave on why we're not using it.
So there's lots of questions about that for me, but it does tie up that loose end where why aren't they using the planet? They poke fun at themselves about it, and they do use it, and they do end up using it for more power.
Yeah.
Zathras first, he wasn't into helping them or whatever, but then he said, "Oh, you need more power. Let's do that." And again, Lou and I mentioned in the last episode, and me more than Lou, where is it going to go? How are they going to get the broadcast out? And this answers that question. So I like that. And could they have used Franklin more sparingly and to drop in just an information nugget and walk away? Yeah, we're back. Bye now. And then later in the episode, he says something and he walks by and it's just so brief. It's just like giving one line of information and that's it. I thought that was funny too. That storyline, it was good. And you're right. I don't even know that I'd call it a C storyline, except for it's setting up the whole broadcast studio thing. But I found it really interesting. I loved Ivanova's speech at the end. It was really good. And it just shows how different things are in the real world, because there might be people saying things like that now, but they're not listened to by whoever's against it. There's no changing minds.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we can agree on is there are still people who try to give unbiased reporting, but in many cases, it's just everything comes in their own slant. That's just the nature of the beast at this time.
And I think it always has been, but the people that listen to the news can take what they want from it. And there is definitely several channels that have a very strong bias in one direction or the other. Yeah. And she says something about the truth doesn't lie. We can agree on that. And that no one, if you don't believe in the truth in this country, you don't.
Yeah.
So, that's it.
I do not think we've discussed it here, and I'm going to get to you in just a minute, Lou, but I discussed this with someone on Set Lusting Bruce, where she has done a lot of her work on gender studies. And she, a few years ago, put out a book of Tori Amos and how Tori Amos's music helped a lot of women get through trauma in their lives. And she has a new book out, Taylor Swift and Gender. So very smart. And she's from Florida, and we were talking about that. The Daily Show had a great segment on there are certain Republican politicians that are now called moderates just because they don't believe the election was stolen.
And everything else they can be far right. But
but if they just believe that one thing, they're pretty moderate. And so
they're really not.
Yeah. So
I'll give an example real quick. Liz Cheney, who people praised for her treatment of January 6th, but she is all of her other views I just cannot get on board with. So,
well, as Linda said, she goes, there's not a thing about Liz Cheney that I agree with, but I would vote for her in a minute if she was running for president. If I had to vote for a Republican, I would, because at least while I don't agree with her politics, I think she's trying to do what's right.
The right thing,
in her thing.
In her mind,
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd vote for her, but anyway, I get that sentiment. But anyway, sorry, Liz.
Her Liz Cheney's worldview is based on reality, which is
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of it is her reality, but some of it is real reality.
But it's a reality that is based on facts, not propaganda. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you once again, guys. It is hard not to go into politics.
Yeah, sorry.
This show, because I think that is what
science fiction's all about.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
And it's a direct correlation to what she's talking about.
To doing.
Yeah.
Lou, what did you think about this?
And then, Hi.
Yeah. Hey,
sorry.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. No, this Susan storyline really just reinforces that I think they sent the wrong people to Mars. They should have sent Marcus and Susan. Like when she talked at the end of that episode, this is somebody that you can believe in. Where no shade on Franklin, but he just doesn't have that type of personality. And I think Susan would have been a much better choice. And of course, the potential delicious comedy that they could have had between her and Marcus, like as a couple going to the honeymoon suite and all that stuff. Like it was all there. It was just it was all on the table, and the show didn't take advantage of it. I think that was a big mistake, and it's too bad that they went with the route that they did. As for the rest of it, I'm bummed out to find out that Zathras is not coming back. Not because I'm a super big fan of the character, but they seem to set up this whole thing that there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
And that would have been interesting to explore going forward. I thought there was a bit of a retcon there that he worked there, and that was never, but yes, he never showed up in any of the previous episodes where they went to the planet. That's a head scratcher as well. But
we had never seen them, but we had seen him because his brother went into the past with Sinclair. Yeah.
But that doesn't have anything to do with the planet, though. We never saw him on the planet. Yeah. So we never saw him on the planet before.
That's where they met him. Was the planet? Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember that. Sorry. Okay, but I retract that. Yeah. The other thing is, if they can get power for transmitting radio signals, can they not use that power for weapons or something else? I just don't understand how it's so specific to that one purpose. And this is an example of doing something in a serial type show that for that one particular episode is cool, but it creates a big logic problem going forward, that you don't take advantage of that thing again. So I put it to something like the original Star Trek again, like Errand of Mercy, where they went to the planet where the Organians turned out to be these powerful beings. And for the rest of the series, they had to live to the fact that there was this enforced peace treaty between the Federation and the Klingons. The series acknowledged it, whereas in Babylon 5, it just keeps getting thrown under the rug until they need it for something. I don't think this planet's been handled very well at all, and this just reinforces that for me. But getting back to the positives, I thought it was funny that Susan had the answer right under her nose, but never realized it, and her self-deprecating humor is always fun to watch. From that perspective, it was quite entertaining. But that last speech just reinforced for me that she should have been the one that went to Mars.
I agree that could have been a lot of fun. It was great to see Franklin and Marcus interact back and forth, but I think for other reasons, one, it would have sent a strong message. Like in the real world, often the vice president is sent to represent the president on foreign trips.
Yep.
And to have that take her, and also would have given Corwin or whoever is third in command in the military a chance to step up, right?
Mm-hmm. And also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to, and also remember, he talked about he wanted her to work on her diplomatic skills, and he wanted her to get ready for command.
Yeah, it was all set up. Yeah, and if they wanted Franklin to do something, go have him talk to Garibaldi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know this is much.
No, I'm right there.
I think they're completely valid, and I think about Epsilon 3 and all that and why they didn't use it. All they needed was a line, and I keep saying this, but all they needed was a line where Zathras says, "Yes, we don't get involved in war," or something to that effect, and then we would have realized why they didn't get used for the war. It's just one little line that they could have done that, And
I think one of the things that he has talked about, and I was trying to look real quick while we were talking, and I could not find something specific about Epsilon 3, but I do know he mentioned that they had the changes in actors, and he ended up just screw it then, because I didn't want, how could I explain that he looked different a third time, right?
Right.
Yep.
Oh, no, I get that 100%.
Yeah, but it does seem like you could have, like in this time, you went and Zathras is there.
Yeah.
And you could have used, which by the way, this is Tim Colte. I don't know how to say his last name, but it's the guy who played Zathras. And
Tim
yeah,
Choate.
Tim Choate. Yeah. And a fan favorite. They loved, in fact, in the movie, he is
the
he
animated?
makes an appearance. Yeah, in the animated movie, he makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
Yeah. My final point on the whole planet thing is it's the Gandalf problem, right? In Lord of the Rings, even in the movies, it's never really explained why Gandalf is so powerful, yet he doesn't really use his power. It's more there as a catalyst to get the inhabitants of the world of Middle Earth to for themselves. So it's the same kind of issue. So even arguably the greatest movie trilogy of all time, still has issues that it's not perfect. And I think the Gandalf issue was one of them. And Babylon 5 has the same thing.
And I think that's one of the reasons that on social media, people have asked about why do a Babylon 5 reboot, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, these are my words, not his, but I'm summarizing what I think he means is, paraphrasing, that he would like to play in this world as he's a writer now. He has learned so much over the past years that he thinks he could tell, and it wouldn't have to be the same storyline. It would just be in that universe with new characters, and he can explore the themes of the show, but tell it a different way.
And update it.
Yeah.
Using things that, like, we have iPads and stuff now, and they would feature different technology and stuff. I agree. And I do think that he's become a better writer since, but I get that. And so it would be like an AU alternate universe.
Yeah, similar to Battlestar Galactica, right? Ron Morton told a very different story. So good. All right. The only other scene, according to my notes, that really have nothing to do with the main storyline, Garibaldi, is Sheridan does get Jakar and Londo in the same room. We had not seen them in a while. It's almost like we didn't see Veer because he had in real life, the actor had a sitcom. These two, we just haven't seen much. And I think that's probably because they used so much screen time on them at the beginning, but it was good to see them in the same room. And Sheridan's kind of point of, I'm going to use Rangers as border patrol. They're going to be U.S. Marshals or Canadian Mounties, right? To keep the peace, but not get involved in local politics. And he said, I thought that was a great line. You two agree in nothing, but if I can have you guys agree to this, I think that's a powerful statement. Any thoughts on that? Because I'm sure this is going to, not spoiler, but you can tell that's going to bear fruit later. Lou?
For sure. Off the top, the scene ended on a very weird cut. It was like Londo was going to say something, and then it cut to the next scene. I go, wait a minute, what happened there? Did they?
Yeah.
Is there any discussion about that edit at all, Jesse, in fandom?
No, not as far as I know. No.
Interesting.
I agree with you.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was weird too.
Yeah, he was going to say something and they said, no, we don't want it. But then they should have cut
earlier. I was left a little thinking about, hey, what's going to happen? I don't get what was going to happen in that moment. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah.
I do. And that's why I was like, I guess we should bring it up because I'm sure this will be important later. But it was almost, it's been a couple episodes since we've seen him. And, we want to show that Jakar no longer has a blue eye. Okay, let's do it this way. So yeah.
Yeah. But on the scene itself, it is giving me the vibe that Sheridan he's becoming a very ambitious character, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't want to say it's exactly like he's becoming like a megalomaniac or anything like that, but he's really pushing the envelope on things that he wants to get done that I think a lot of other people would find controversial. So that's interesting. And when I saw that scene coupled with the whole propaganda stuff or not propaganda, but the news program that Susan's doing, it really does seem like he's building a platform for something beyond Babylon 5. And through spoilers, unfortunately, I know where he ends up, but I see the seeds of where that all is beginning in this episode, or it's been happening for a while since he's been resurrected from Sahadum. But in this one, you could see more of the planks on his political career being laid. So I found that interesting from scene interesting from that perspective.
I absolutely agree. Yeah,
I feel like even though he denies it, he's almost leaning into the God complex thing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting things, I think, is that Garibaldi is not necessarily wrong all the way. I would argue that you would be better served being part of the group and working within and trusting that John means well and to keep him on the right path. Absolute power, absolute corruption, absolutely, or as they say. So I think it would have been interesting to do that storyline. Instead, we're doing this, which, okay. So let's get to this is Garibaldi's episode. We get his ex returning, which I love that actress. I think she is just really perfect in the role. I love how he's hurt. So I want to start out with the very beginning where we show that Garibaldi still has a good heart because he finds this guy's daughter, charges basically just enough to cover his expenses, and talks about, why didn't you just tell me? Because then I couldn't have seen this. So Lou, tell me how you were feeling watching that scene.
Yeah, it was very heartwarming. Whatever's been done to Garibaldi to screw him up against Sheridan, the basic nature of the character hasn't changed. And I think that's what this scene was meant to demonstrate. And it was just really well done. And I just thought that Jerry Doyle just played that scene wonderfully. And it's weird because knowing the actor and his real world political views and stuff like that, I wouldn't really think I would cotton to the guy. But within the context of this universe, he seems to be the only one that stayed true, and I guess Susan too, true to his core character traits. And whatever's messing up his head that set up this conflict between him and Sheridan is at a more higher level than his core belief. So I just thought it was a really good scene, and I really felt connected to that moment, which is something I haven't felt ever since the end of the Shadow Wars. So I really enjoyed it from that perspective.
Yeah, Karen?
Yeah, the actor who plays Ben in that scene, just off the top, Charles Walker, I looked at him and I thought, oh, God, I know him from somewhere. And I watched it on my laptop, which I don't have 3 monitors like I do on my desktop. So I didn't bother to look it up then, but I went on my phone and I looked it up, and he played the minister. Community is one of my go-to if I want to watch something in the background. Community, Parks and Rec, The Good Place, all those kind of shows. He played the minister that marries, why can I not remember her name now? Marries Shirley and Andre when they get married again for the second time. And he has quite a bit of scene chewing in that episode, where he's the minister. It's just a funny part. And he looks exactly the same in it. And what is it, 25, 30 years later or something? And finally, I was like, okay, got it. And then the next time I watched it, I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to think about what he's from. And of course, thinking that took me out. So I had to rewind and watch the scene again. I hate when that happens, to be honest, when something like that takes me out of the scene. I thought that was great that the guy is worried it's going to take our whole savings, and it was worth it. And he already had it written up. Garibaldi already had it written up for a huge discount, which I liked very much. It really does show that he still, even though there's something going on in his brain that happened to him, he's still Garibaldi at heart. That's in character for him.
Like that reminded me of one of the earlier seasons where Garibaldi says, I never make a point of never telling myself, right? And he's this idea, I'm gonna have to talk to accounting. Wait a minute.
I'm accounting. Right.
I don't want to get me in trouble. So let's just keep this going.
He does that quite a bit where he pretends he's someone else. And
And I think
if I knew, then I would know, and I don't want to know.
Yeah. And I think the idea of that I'm going to charge full price for people I know can afford it. So therefore that can subsidize these things doing that I need to do. And I just love that scene because then I wouldn't have got to see this.
And that's his payment.
Yeah, that's his payment.
And so he's doing like a pro bono thing almost.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, Karen, because in a way, Garibaldi might know that there's something wrong with him, but he doesn't want to deal with it, which is what he does just on a day-to-day level with his social interactions. So that's a very interesting analogy. I like that.
And later on in the episode, I think that is shown again where, and I won't get into it right now, but where he gets a flash of maybe something's wrong with him or something had happened to him. And he's suppressing it very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's having a good day. And I think you got to do a little bit of hand wave here, but John pulls Zach in. John's sitting in the dark and says, there's a lot of crap that have been falling through the cracks. And with me not being distracted by Delenn, which is an odd statement, I'm cleaning house. And one of the things is we've not officially severed ties with Garibaldi. So I need you to go get his link, his ID badge, and his gun. And Zach's like, he's going to come back anyway. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But right now he's not on the payroll, which I thought about. Okay, there is no payroll because you're not on Earth anymore. But that's an expression. I get that. Go get the stuff. And I love Zach. He ain't going to be happy about that. That's your red wagon. Go do it. And Garibaldi was actually pretty nice, except about the weapon. And I was a little surprised because I would have thought he would have expected this to come and would have already made arrangements to get another gun ready. Karen, we'll start with you this time. This led to Garibaldi was really disappointed in Zach. And when Zach says, then they would have sent someone else. He says, yeah, but it wouldn't have been you. And I thought that was a low blow on him. That's not fair to Zach. Because he told Zach, you're ready for this. And he should know, hey, this is not Zach, my friend, or someone I've mentored, but that's the gig. So thoughts about that, Karen?
Yeah. And he should know because he held that same position. He should know that would have been one of his duties, that Zach would have to be the one to do it. It's the captain that takes your gun and your badge. It's not like it's not Terry. It's the captain. And I'm going on Brooklyn Nine-Nine here. It would be the captain taking it. And Zach is in that role. Other people there's the option of them taking it and doing something with it. But we know Zach is above board 100%. And I know Lou isn't in the same boat as me, but I really do Zach like a lot. And I think he did a really good job here in this episode. Kevin, what is his name? I'm sorry. Jeff Conway. He did a really good job here portraying how difficult it was for him to ask for that back. And I think also Jerry Doyle did a good job in knowing that, I know I would have done it as well, but I get it. You had to take orders. I was a little confounded about why he would be so utterly disappointed in Zach. I could see where there would be a little hurt there because it's Zach, but why stab him after he's already hurting? Zach didn't want to do it, and Garibaldi knew that. And yet he twists the knife a little bit and gives him a guilt trip. So, and I agree with you. I feel like he would have already gotten a sidearm for himself. And if I were him, I would have given back all the stuff already. I don't want anything to do with this. Here's all the stuff. He says he doesn't even like the communicator, that it rips the hair off the back of his hand, which I was like, how much hair is on the back of your hand, dude?
That is such a Garibaldi statement, though.
It is, right? It is. That it's irritating, so I'll give it back right away. But we do see later that it comes into play, that there's several things that happen that deal with that stuff. So I get why they put it in this episode. And I think that for what it was, it did a good job in this episode, I thought.
Yeah. Lou.
Yeah, great scene. And I agree with Karen. I thought Jeff Conway did an excellent job. I would have preferred a little more small talk between the two of them before he got to the point of why he was meeting them. That's what it is. I think Garibaldi was pissed that Zach figured out that he had a backup weapon. I don't think he thought.
That could have been.
I don't think he thought Zach was going to be that smart. I'm surprised. And I think he was fine with the other things because he had a backup identity card. So he was expecting to lose that card. He was expecting to lose his gun, but he had backups of both. And I think when he got caught by Zach on that gun thing, that's why he was pissed off. And that's why he struck out the way that he did.
Yeah,
that's how
good idea.
That's how, anyhow.
I like that idea a lot. And the idea if Jeff had, okay, so I've taken your RPG, wink.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm not going to leave you weaponless.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have resulted in Garibaldi being so sandpaper.
Yeah, and it's a good scene to show that while Zach may be good at his job, Garibaldi is better. Because if Garibaldi, if the roles had been reversed, Garibaldi would have asked him for duplicate copies of anything as well. So I thought that scene worked quite well on several levels. And it was a scene that was long overdue, having one of the Babylon 5 crew members talk to Garibaldi. Besides Sheridan, I like the way the show did it, but the way Sheridan's been portrayed, I'm very surprised that he actually didn't go down himself and demand all those things, but which would have just been another round of fireworks for sure. But
I think that was purposeful. That he figured Zach could do it without flack.
Yeah.
And I did love Garibaldi's, what does his eminence, that isn't the word, but he's consistently feeling like the captain is this messiah figure.
Yeah. There was this nice atmosphere of congeniality between the two of them, but as soon as Zach mentioned Sheridan's name, then Garibaldi just dropped the pretense, and I thought that was well played as well. Yeah, just a great all-around scene. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, and it led to, where when they come to Garibaldi and ask him, hey, we've got a job for you. We want to hire you, and you're going to have to go against your people. That gave Garibaldi a chance to say, another day, I probably would have told you no, but today, I'm fine with, because he's ticked at Zach. And I do think there's a lot of things. Yeah, and Sheridan. I think there's a lot to play there that, one, he's ticked at Zach for being too good at his job. And also Zach feeling, where is the personal loyalty, right? Like, I know in my case, I had been at a job 10 years and had really helped a lot of people. And when I was laid off, hardly none of them reached out to me, even though before I left the building, they said, I'll always be Team Jesse, but they just never did. And I don't think that was specifically because the new regime said, hey, stay away from Jesse, but I don't know, whatever the awkwardness. And I think the idea of, I would like to think that Zach would have been routinely going to Garibaldi's quarters and saying, hey, we don't have to talk business. I obviously would love to pick your brain about problems, but I understand you want a distance, but let's watch some Daffy Duck cartoons, let's share a meal, or let's do whatever we need to do. But and
I've got
in my mind, they're doing that off screen, but they're not.
Yeah. I've got a morsel of small comfort for you, Jesse, in your particular experience. I think you and I entered the workforce probably in around the same era in the 80s. And I think back then company loyalty was a big thing. Yeah. And I think into the mid 90s, that started to change as companies started to want to streamline their operations and become more efficient. And it just led to, it was very unusual when I started out working for people to leave the company. People would be there for life. But that by the mid 90s, that changed. People were constantly leaving jobs, going to new companies. And the generation of workers that came up behind us, they don't understand the concept of company loyalty. And for them to see people coming and going is just a normal work event now. So that kind of response that you were hoping for, I don't think that they were familiar with that experience that you and I had as being like a company man. Just that idea doesn't really exist anymore. So
me too. Well, I know I'm younger than you, but I started working at 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do get that.
Yeah.
I left a job when I was
just
15.
An
idea. I left a job when I was 15 in the early 80s, and they actually called me back to do some stuff for them because they missed me. And it was stuff that they paid me for under the table, but they were like, yeah, you were loyal, come back and do some stuff for us. And then with other jobs, it was like I was just disposable. So 100%.
And on a totally another tangent, the thing that really pissed me off during that era was the company would bald face come out to you and ask you, oh, can you train these people that are going to replace you? Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, we've all had that experience.
Yeah.
Brutal. Anyhow.
It's the worst.
Back on topic. Sorry.
It relates to the show.
Yes, it does.
That's how Garibaldi's feeling.
Yeah, it is. He is asked. They flat say that he is expendable. I think he's smart enough to know that he's expendable for these people. Yep. But I think Garibaldi is, I'm going to use them to, once again, maybe fund some of this other stuff I'm doing. And Elise comes back. We find out that, as he says, in the time since we've been gone, you've lost one husband and gained another. What the hell? And there is the MacGuffin is this somehow telepath Jean could help do things. We find out she's married to one of the richest men in Mars. That has a lot to do with medical. He's made a lot of money in medical supplies. Let's just talk all the way through the gunfight and all the excitement, and then we'll do that, and then we'll talk about the ending. So, Lou, go ahead.
I thought overall, this episode, the writing was very strong. So when Lise showed up, I thought this is the perfect time to bring her into the story because we've got Garibaldi isolated. He's out of sorts and he's vulnerable, potentially vulnerable at this time. And I like the subtlety or the layers working here that the guy that's hiring him, I don't know what his name is.
Bill Edgars.
No, the guy in person.
Wade? Yeah, the
Wade.
Character, Wade. That there's this complexity to hiring Garibaldi for this particular job in that it's a test to see if he lives up to his reputation. And at the same time, we've got his Garibaldi's ex-wife coming in. So this is not just like a straightforward, we want him for this job and we're going to take it at face value. There's plans within plans working here. And that's going on. And then Lise shows up. And by the way, I have to say that actress had gorgeous hair. I was just like, the first thing I was going, wow.
She is absolutely beautiful. And by the way, they were never married. So you said ex-wife, but just to clarify, it's his ex. They were in a relationship, but they never got married.
But she quickly chilled me because she seemed very calculating and opportunistic and choosing her relationships. She was a little schizophrenic to me. On the one hand, she was saying to Garibaldi, we weren't going to work out, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the episode, she said, oh, I can't leave you without saying, I don't want to leave you. And I'm going, seriously? Like, I'm not buying this. And Garibaldi, to his credit, did not buy it. He wouldn't even take her message after she had left, which I loved. I would have been really pissed, actually, if he had listened to the message.
That is very him, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's over. It's done with. And so that all played out really well. I had to laugh when they went into the ducks. I got Chuck flashbacks. If anybody knows that show, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Because their budget got reduced so badly in the later seasons that they seem to do a lot of duct work. So I found that kind of funny. And it's always convenient how large those ducks are. If I tried to crawl around the ducks in my house, there's no way it would work.
No.
But anyhow, and I was puzzled as to why he kept saying we're going to Ducky Bay 3 and I hadn't realized at that point that the henchmen were telepaths. So that was interesting. And it was funny. And it's just a timing thing because I've just rewatched the first Dune and that to see these two guys crunching down on their teeth and killing themselves. So I had to chuckle at that. Also, this whole sequence or section of the episode also showed Garibaldi's resourcefulness because he had lost his security passes. Zach had figured out he must have a backup card, and so he canceled all his security clearances. So it was good to see him being able to, what do you call it, work on the fly. Improvise,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Working on the fly. So that all played out nicely. And then the last scene between him and Sheridan, where Garibaldi's blaming Sheridan for the fact that those people had been killed because he took away his security clearances. I thought was a nice jab at the between the two of them. And then Sheridan puts him on notice that if he does anything similar to this again, he's going to be kicked off the station. And then he's contacted by Lisa's new husband about coming to Mars. So I have to assume that he's going to pursue that. And I don't know how. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because the purpose of the brainwashing seems to be in Sheridan's face. But now that he's going to Mars, that is going to negate his brainwashing. So whether he's going to get an update in his brainwashing, we'll have to see. And I have to admit, when he got that first message back from Lise, I was half expecting it to be another brainwashing message from the Psi Corps or something like that. But that didn't play out in any shape or form in there. So yeah, just a well-plotted, multi-layered storyline with mostly, for Garibaldi, he was totally within character. I found the Lise character a little wonky at times, but generally I thought that played pretty well. And yeah, that was just a breath of fresh air after what has been a string of, to me, rather pedestrian episodes.
Yeah, so Karen, I'm going to have you jump in, but one of the things, I knew this was coming, and so I knew that Michael had some good stuff coming, right? But that doesn't negate the issue of watching it the first time. You have that feeling, right?
It's all being frustrated.
Yeah,
that he's
it's all
not
good and Dan. Oh, when I rewatch this, that doesn't happen to me before. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's really well done.
Because that there's episodes with him that are Garibaldi heavy, I'm assuming, other than this one.
Right.
And so it's not disappointing when he doesn't show up. But for Lou and I, it was like, where is he in this season? He hasn't been in this season almost at all. That was super refreshing for me to see it. And it revolved around him, which was good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Your thoughts, Karen, about this?
Yeah. I adored the storyline in Toto. When Lou mentions the ducks and him saying to them, Doggy May 3 or whatever it is, I'm sorry. Yeah. And he mentions later that it was to confuse the telepaths. That's where I thought his conditioning or whatever came into play, that he recognized them as telepaths. Because he looks at them and it's like something sinks in, like he gets something. So have they given him some telepathic abilities where how did he know they were going to fire up through the ducts? And I thought, okay, there's something going on there, that when he looked at the guy, something happened. Because otherwise, I think he would have just shot the guy, right? The guy's coming after them. And I think that was part of his conditioning, that he doesn't shoot telepaths and all that stuff. And again, that's me reading into it, but I got that feeling that something was going on there.
Yeah, I agree. That was a weird beat. But I think you've nailed it. Yeah, that he's been maybe programmed not to attack telepaths.
And that he can recognize telepaths too.
Yeah.
So I do think that has something. I'm just guessing here, but it seemed to me that there was something funny going on there. And that was the only out of character beat for him, I thought, in the whole episode. I do think also that the end with Sheridan, he was way cocky. And I think that is within his character, but I get where Sheridan's coming from.
Yeah.
No, the dude was doing stuff that could have led to there could have been collateral damage in the Zocalo when he meets with the contact. And I would be upset too. So I get where Sheridan's coming from. And I think he was throwing it in his face that, hey, you're not going to arrest me over this stuff. And I think Sheridan doubled down on, hey, I'm not going to do it right now, but if it happens again, I will. And I enjoyed that scene as well. All his interactions with Lise, I thought were good. He wrote her off completely. And to see her come back, I think it really it jarred him a little bit. And then once he realized that she was this fickle person, married to one person, then married to another person. And even though she had this tale of woe that he took my child, and he just didn't care because he feels like she did it to herself.
Yeah.
And that really does show that he was hurt and also sees the flaws in her character at this point. I love that her husband, and I recognized his voice right away. And I don't know if you did, Lou, but it's Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. playing Bill Edgars.
Oh, really? No, I didn't clue into that at all. Okay.
Yeah, I love him from Remington Steele. I know he did a bunch of stuff before that,
Steele,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those.
FBI.
Yeah, he was in that too, definitely.
Yeah,
he did voiceovers. He played Alfred Pennyworth in 3 different incarnations of the character in
animated
comic books.
Oh,
yeah, no, animated. You're right.
Yeah.
So I think he has such a great voice, and I think he's perfect for this. And it shows. I'm guessing down the line we're going to see that she married this guy that's like older than her and has all this money and stuff. So I like that as well. Lou said the duct thing always gets me every time I see it. Like my cat wouldn't even fit in ductwork. It's so small. And to see them like go in a person-sized air duct, and it happens everywhere. Like the aforementioned Community has that. Farscape, they go through all these ductwork things that don't need to be. In fact, it would be counterproductive to be that big because it needs to be forced air through ductwork, and to have it that big, it would just move around, fly around in little clouds.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is fair is the whole, that's a trope that happens often. The original Star Trek, because they needed the
corridors,
filming room, the corridors were just huge.
Yeah.
And they were like, and they try to say they had power to spare. And it's no,
and that's another thing too. The places where you would walk around in this show, again in Farscape, in the original Star Trek, in all incarnations of Star Trek.
Yeah.
The doorways are all huge. And you mentioned it was for filming, and that's definitely why they did it, but it also it's one of those things that you're like, okay, whatever, every show does it, but it still is like, why do they go in the ducts? I don't get it. And why did they mention it's duct work? I could see if it was something else that they used. The place, I don't know what it would be called, but the place where you would go to repair stuff that's behind the walls. Why don't they do that? Because I'm sure there's places you can go in the ship that's like behind electronics or whatever. But ductwork is that quick and easy solution. I understand. It was just, I agree. I thought of Chuck immediately. Yeah. Because there were so many things in Chuck where they used the ducts, and they used it for comedic value as well. And I feel like there was an element of that kind of, let's go in the ducts. It was funny, and funny as not but funny that they used ductwork. And I also, again, I think it's that there's something going on in his brain, and that's why he recognized that. I feel like the whole situation, I'm wondering if this is tied into what's happening with the Psy-Corps, if Wade is a part of that, or if they're 2 separate things.
I think they're 2 separate things, because I was just going to add on to what you're talking about, Karen, because your whole point about Garibaldi maybe being able to recognize a telepath. I've always made the assumption that the brainwashing was to subvert Sheridan's command, but I think, theory time, I think that's just an erroneous assumption on my part, and it's more of a bonus of the brainwashing. I think this whole, the introduction of this genetic material, the dealing with telepaths, is the whole reason that he was brainwashed.
So you think Wade and all that, they're related to his brainwashing?
Yeah.
But the Sheridan stuff isn't.
I think Sheridan's just like a side benefit. I think this is the real reason he's been brainwashed. Bester's aware of this research, and he wants Garibaldi to go after it and find out where it's coming from, who's involved. And at some point, he's probably going to want him to destroy it or something like that. So
Sure.
I think that's the primary. Now I think that's the primary reason that he's been brainwashed. That's cool. That's pretty cool. So thank you for that point, Karen, because you just sparked that in my head. So that's my new theory. Garibaldi's been brainwashed to search out this genetic material for whatever this genetic flaw in telepaths is, and Bester wants to stop it.
Yeah, and if that theory is correct, then he can broadcast something without actually broadcasting it to telepaths.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming like that conditioning makes him more susceptible to telepaths, maybe?
Maybe that's because he would have to have some sort of, and maybe he does, we just don't know about it. Maybe Garibaldi is a latent telepath himself, or has some sort of,
or they did something
to enhance it, but he could just
was my thought.
He could just use normal or communications methods to relay whatever he finds to Bester, or Bester will just show up at a certain point and say, okay, or they'll send another one of those weird messages, the flashing light messages, and say, now report, what have you found out, kind of thing. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm still.
Ooh, this is exciting.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm still a little on the fence as to what the conditioning was for, or what you made a great point that you think that Wade and all that is his main purpose. And I'm guessing Wade was sent there to get him onto that path.
No, I think Wade is, and those guys is the people that Bester wants to find out about as well. So he wants to discover that whole network.
So how did he get Wade to go? There's some sort of impetus that happened to get them to go.
Well, I just think the fact that they set up Garibaldi as being fired from his security job is some element of the criminal world was going to reach out to him eventually.
Okay.
Whether or not it's that way, it could be a double agent, but I don't know. I think that's getting a little.
Yeah.
I don't think the show is going to get that complicated.
Right. Yeah, they're probably not going to tell us. It's probably just a coincidence that he got involved with it.
Yeah.
So the part of Jesse, or the part of the listening audience, has been played by Jesse these past 5 minutes, because I am sure our listeners that are veterans have enjoyed this discussion very much. Enough said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, very well said.
In doing podcasts, I feel like we've learned how to watch TV a little differently than other people.
Sure.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we do podcasts in the first, because we've watched so much TV, we've seen the patterns of writing that shows use all the time, so we want to talk about it.
And also when they're subverted.
Especially when they're subverted.
Right.
And I think to go back to, as a plug for those of you who may not have listened to our discussion of Watchmen, the miniseries, is when it goes in an angle we didn't see coming, makes us so much happier.
Yep.
Even though the clues were all there.
Yeah.
They didn't cheat us. They played fair, but we didn't see it. And you're like, now that you do, you go, oh my God, it's all there, played out. Yeah,
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
I will admit right up front, I did not know what the twist was going to be in The Sixth Sense.
Same here.
Right.
It was so exciting to go back and see all the clues that he never interacted with anyone but the boy. And there's so many clues that.
Yeah, I think the first time I had that feeling was the original Planet of the Apes, when they're on the beach and he goes around.
They blew it up.
Yeah,
exactly.
And to see, like, when you think about, like, The Sixth Sense, right, where Haley Joel Osment actually says to him, they don't realize. They tell it right.
They don't know that they're dead.
Yeah.
And there's just so many clues that are dropped, and you go back and you're just so delighted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I am also delighted when I assemble the clues and get what's happening
too. Yeah.
But I think I'm more delighted when they surprise me because it's good writing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like if we're on the right track here, I'm going to be delighted in what happens here as well.
Yeah. So we've got, what's cool is I would say that you guys should know, you don't cast someone like Efren Zimmerlis Jr., just his voice normally on a TV series. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
I'm assuming we're going to see him at some point.
Yeah. And I think you'll continue to enjoy where Garibaldi is going.
Awesome.
Any other thoughts that we should back up? By the way, of the JMS had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different thoughts on this one. And he discusses the PPG going through the air conditioning wall. He says because there's a whole discussion of the reason why they use that gun is so it wouldn't hurt the station, but then it did. So we'll do that. And he did say
I didn't even think about that, to be honest. So
and Lisa's message was not important for the long story. Yeah.
Okay. So she was just trying to tie up some loose ends with him, I'm guessing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other things we need to talk about in the episode?
Daffy Duck? Were we going to
Daffy
mention?
Duck. That was nice.
I love that he watched. And that short is really funny to me where Bugs Bunny is actually the illustrator at the end. Again, it's another little twist. I love
and
twists.
It's another clue.
Yeah, I think so too.
Garibaldi is Daffy Duck. And
that there's some
and Bester is Bugs Bunny.
That he's on puppet strings. Definitely.
Yeah.
And here is, he said, I know that cartoon. I knew that cartoon, and I had that definitely in mind when I wrote the script. Took some maneuvering to get WB to let us use that much of it. I'm a big Warner Brothers cartoon fan, and there were 2 places where it could have fit with the story. The other one, which I almost used, was when you see 2 Daffys arguing with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is a good one, and it does give us that kind of puppet master.
It does.
Vibe.
It is. You could. I think that's it's just a great cartoon, and we know that he loves. That's
been set up.
His favorite thing, and
he gets both of them there. He has 3 favorite things, and one of them's eating, and one of them's Daffy Duck, and we know what the third one is.
Yes.
But he's eating, and he's watching Daffy Duck in this. So that's also a little callback.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Let's do ratings. Lou, we're back. Garibaldi's here. What are you thinking?
I'm torn because I don't want to overrate the episode because I've been waiting for it so long, because I think I might be a little over effusive about my rating. So I'm tempted out of the gate to give it a 9, but I'm going to dial it back a bit and give it an 8.5. I don't know, PPGs.
Okay. All right, Karen?
Honestly, give it what you feel like giving it. Because even if you like another episode down the line, you could still give it a 9 too.
Yeah, but I just feel like I've had pent up.
Yeah, Garibaldi love. Yeah, I get it.
I'm gonna stay with
8.5. Yep. Okay. I'm also gonna give it 8.5. That was my first instinct, and I'm gonna give it 8.5 outright lies, which is from the speech that Susan gives at the end.
Yeah, I really like this one too. This was a nice one to come back on after being disappointed last week. I went, oh yeah, here's season 4. This is what I remember liking. So I'm also going to go 8.5 Zathras, not Zathras.
Like Karen, not Karen, which is my little tagline.
Yeah. The P5 rating is 8.04.
Oh.
So
we're a little higher.
Last week we were lower than they were. This week we're higher than them.
They're wrong, by the way.
Yeah.
They're completely wrong. It needs to be higher.
Let's see. I don't remember if I emailed you, if we got feedback. Did I?
No.
Okay. And I will read it because I didn't send it, but Texas, of course, took care of us. So Garibaldi's getting a bit more to do here. This first scene is really intended to tell us Garibaldi is still Garibaldi, more or less. Ta-da. When dealing with the father and daughter, he was seemingly just like he's always been. Even when Zach comes by, he remains cheerful and upbeat until Sheridan is mentioned. You can literally watch his mood shift. By the way, you guys both mentioned that.
Yep.
This is what makes me think Garibaldi's personality has not been altered, but his perception has. Before he took Sheridan and think captain, leader, friend, he now sees different, changed, warmonger threat, which again would have made this especially heartbreaking if this was Sinclair. And he does what Garibaldi does in the face of such things. Pausing here, this is Jesse. One of the things that I got confused on when I was watching this the first time is when Elise talked about you barely know this guy and you're following him on to Babylon 5. I was like, yeah, now that he's turned on Sheridan, I'm like, oh, wait, that was Sinclair, not Sheridan. Back to me reading text.
But Garibaldi and Sinclair had a relationship. Like they knew each other quite well.
Yeah,
That
they had built
I
this
think
out.
it wouldn't have worked with Sinclair, but it works very well with Sheridan.
Yeah. All right, back to Texas. In addition, it seems like there are occasionally where whenever his program is giving him a little push, causing him to step over a line he wouldn't normally cross. And once he has, Garibaldi doesn't do things by halves. So here he finds himself in the employ of one of the richest men on Mars. He just happens to be married to his old flame. Bit of a coincidence, but I'm not going to complain. In any case, they have a package to get through the station, one they are trying to keep under wraps, but someone already knows about it. Specifically, telepaths know about it. And I don't think these are blips. They have got to be from the core. In other news, Ivanova is getting the voice of resistance set up. By the way, voice of resistance is capitalized, but needs some help to do more than just scream into local space. When she lists the help of Zathras, no, not before we saw Zathras. Now we are meeting Zathras. And by the way, he typed with a little different emphasis. That was all one shot, by the way, and it was the first take. They apparently did it a couple times, but the first one worked the best. Looking forward to you seeing the next episode, which we will have no trouble seeing because we have great big eyes and great big screens and great big never mind. This is Texas on the Shot signing off in Valen's name. Thank you, Texas. We appreciate you so much. Lou, did we get anything on the Facebook page or our YouTube page?
I got a couple. First one from Iffy says, "Damn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not a diplomat." Very good. And Texas commented, "I was waiting for someone to make the staff joke." Yep.
The opening and closing of the thing is that.
Yep.
All right.
Very symbolic.
Yes.
Agreed.
Good. All right. If someone wants to reach us, Lou, how can they?
They can just check out this podcast on our YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, where you find this podcast, along with our JKL Media, where we just finished The Watchmen, and we're going to do the We Are the World special right after this one. Also got some interviews with writers with my Writers podcast and the Stephen King podcast. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sytsma, Sytsma.
And Karen?
We need to do another King podcast.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I am at Aleveria, Aleveria, on the various social medias. I put a video up of my cat on TikTok. So he's snoring really loud. And I was happy with the amount of views I got. So I'm going to do more. But every time I put the camera on him, he stops doing whatever he's doing, like a cat would do. So anyway, that's my TikTok as well, Aleveria. And there's a link in my bio to my link tree, which has links to all my other stuff on there, one of which is my blog. And the landing page has a bunch of other links for you.
Super. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW, continuing to talk Bruce Springsteen on Set Lusting Bruce, continuing Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere, and would appreciate any likes or loves you can give us wherever you're listening to this podcast. Can give us a review. Good Pod seems like we've got a lot of you listening via Good Pod, so thank you. That gets us in their ratings. All right, Karen, Lou, we got another one down. I'm looking forward to finishing up this season with you guys. Thank you as always for a lovely way to start Sunday, especially with an hour less of sleep this time. So listeners, I hope you catch up an extra hour of sleep sometime this week. But until then, be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sayonara.
Yay.
And scene.